Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Wrestling Discussions. I know today's a bit of an early episode, but I don't know if you're used to when I do pay-per-views, but usually when we have a pay-per-view coming up, I try to do earlier episodes so that way everyone can see my predictions and stuff and all that sort of thing. This is going to be interesting because I'm obviously going to be talking a little bit about Friday Night Smackdown last night, as well as tonight's up and coming WWE Backlash of 2023. And I'm going to hop right into things. Again, I did mention this in yesterday's episode. If anyone's curious why I'm not talking about AEW's Rampage, it's simply because I don't really touch on Rampage that often. So if you guys want me to touch on Rampage a little more, feel free to, make that heard, make that known in the comments section. But other than that, I'm not really a big Rampage kind of guy, so I'll do my best if that's what you guys want. Now, moving towards our main topics here, Friday Night Smackdown. We did see Cody Rhodes on SmackDown. As far as I know, it's his last appearance on SmackDown now that the draft is officially set in. Which is interesting. Cody Rhodes had said that his story is going to be over if he loses to Brock Lesnar. So that's interesting to me. So I think the way Cody Rhodes is looking at this is that if he beats Brock Lesnar, he's not done with that of Roman Reigns or that of the championship that he's after. I'm not exactly sure what that means. My assumption is that Cody Rhodes plans on maybe going into Money in the Bank and cashing in on Roman. I don't necessarily know, but what I do know is that the American Nightmare Cody Rhodes is one of the best characters in a long time. He's a true professional wrestler, in my opinion. The way he talks, the way he carries himself, the way he wrestles in that ring, it's very it just brings back the nostalgia of the old days, if you know what I mean. And I really enjoy Cody Rhodes, his in-ring ability, and I love his mic skills. And I just feel like this isn't the end of Cody Rhodes. It can't be. Bro's been back for what? I say a year because he hasn't even wrestled that much in the sense that he was injured for 9 months, not long after his return. He's been out for a while. He just came back at the Royal Rumble. He's just kind of getting back into the swing of things, and so this is still his moment. He's still living in his own moment, and so this can't be the end of his story. Now, we also saw, and I think this is going to be the highlight that a lot of people are going to be looking at, is that last night on Friday Night Smackdown, we did see Bad Bunny in attendance. Obviously, he's in Puerto Rico for tonight's pay-per-view when he takes on Damian Priest in a street fight, San Juan street fight, I should say. And on top of that, he'll be taking on, on top of that, he was on there last night with the rest of the LWO, with Rey Mysterio, Zelina Vega, and Legado del Fantasma. And the Judgment Day were there as well, which is another way that that, the idea of the draft, it hasn't sunk in yet. But it will sink in after this pay-per-view, which is what people kind of got to look at and go, you're not going to see them on this brand anymore. Like Judgment Day, they're not going to be on SmackDown next week. LWO, they will be. Cody Rhodes, he's not going to be on SmackDown next week. It's just kind of the way things work out, if you know what I mean. So here's something that I don't know. Well, in my personal opinion, I had a strong feeling it would happen, but here's something that I think a lot of people were hyped for last night. Bad Bunny has officially joined the LWO. So that's pretty big for him. Because that shirt that he wears, the LWO shirt, that's pretty much a symbol from Rey Mysterio and the rest of the LWO saying, we got your back at that street fight. Judgment Day, they get involved, we get involved. You know what I mean? It's like it's like you joined the family, and that's a big sign of respect coming from Rey Mysterio. And so I think that means the world to Bad Bunny, as it should. And I also think that's going to play into tonight's pay-per-view, which I'll talk about a little bit later on. Now, we also saw some stuff from Bianca Belair and, stuff from Riddle and Owens and Zayn and all this stuff kind of in regards to building up to this pay-per-view and what we might get out of it, because obviously there's a lot going into this pay-per-view that, they kind of build up over last night and throughout the past couple of weeks. However, I don't really want to talk about the segments as much. I more so want to talk about the matches. So last night I will talk about Karrion Kross versus Shinsuke Nakamura. Karrion Kross and Shinsuke Nakamura are two very tremendous wrestlers in my opinion. Very talented wrestlers. Karrion Kross drafted to SmackDown, he'll be staying on the Blue brand. And Shinsuke Nakamura drafted to Raw, he'll be on Team Red. I think that is one of the best things they could do. I don't think Shinsuke's been on Raw in a long time. On top of the, if he's ever officially been drafted to Raw, I'm not sure. On top of that, Shinsuke Nakamura is someone who is great in that ring. He is super duper talented. Karrion Kross, I can say the exact same for him. And I see both of these guys with a great future. And that's my point of it all, My point is that Karrion Kross and Shinsuke have a whole future ahead of them, and so going into that match was just the blueprint. Whereas if they wanted to bring a deeper rivalry into this later on down the line, maybe in a year from now, they could build something off of that match, because that match was very well done. On top of that, you have Shinsuke Nakamura, who he said he wants gold. He could very well be going for the new World Heavyweight Championship when he goes over to Monday Night Raw. Karrion Kross, he's been calling out Roman Reigns subtly here and there since his return. He could eventually fight the Tribal Chief. I'm not sure. However, what I will say is last night we did see Shinsuke Nakamura defeat Karrion Kross, but it was no easy task, and I think that's what I love the most about it, is that, Shinsuke, since he's been back, he's been getting major TV time, and he's been getting good matches, good wrestling, and finally, Shinsuke's being treated like Shinsuke Nakamura. I don't know if it's because when he went over to Japan and he fought Great Muta, and that really kind of psyched him up, and it psyched up Triple H, and it revealed his true potential or whatnot, but he is definitely, in my opinion, getting somewhere finally, and WWE's finally seen something in him, and they're finally, hopefully, going to be doing something with him later on down the line. Now, I know I didn't touch too much on Monday Night Raw. I know I didn't talk too much about it. Sorry, not Monday Night Raw, Friday Night Smackdown. But see, the thing is, especially going into this pay-per-view, I think the bigger things to look at is this pay-per-view. Because last night, like I said, is kind of like the blueprint for tonight. It was more so just segments and build-up for tonight's matches. And so, I'd rather just kind of get into the match card for this evening's pay-per-view, and that's what I'm going to go ahead and do now. So we've got Cody Rhodes versus Brock Lesnar. Now, this is a match that I think people are all excited for, but also a little disappointed in, because it didn't need to happen. It's more so WWE's way of saying, hey, we screwed up at WrestleMania, and then this match is kind of a reminder of it, if you will. This match is the downward spiral of Cody Rhodes, in my opinion, if he doesn't win it. Now, Cody Rhodes, the American Nightmare, again, I love the guy. Brock Lesnar, the Beast Incarnate, I love Brock, but I will admit, I haven't loved Brock in a long time. I can't honestly say that I have deeply enjoyed a Brock Lesnar match since 2017. And I hate to say that, but I really haven't. His last match that I genuinely probably deeply enjoyed was maybe SummerSlam when he fought Samoa Joe, Roman Reigns, and Braun Strowman in a Fatal 4-Way. And even then, that match could have been a whole lot better. Now, everything building up to this match is huge, right? But again, like I had just said, Brock Lesnar, he doesn't wrestle like he used to. He wrestles quicker. He has 5-minute matches, maybe even less than that. He hits the F5 or the suplexes within a minute, even less than that sometimes. And against a guy like Cody Rhodes, it's one of those things where it takes away from Cody. Because it was one thing when it was with Bobby Lashley, who's also a heavy hitter, and who's also someone that could, rush out right from the gate and just full on attack you. Or if it was Braun Strowman, same thing as Bobby. But with Cody Rhodes, this is like, almost like Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns, it's someone that you take your time with. It's someone that you actually kind of stand in that ring and you go back and forth and you prove your. It's like, in my personal opinion, what they should do is what they did with Brock Lesnar versus AJ Styles at Survivor Series, or Brock Lesnar versus Finn Balor, or Brock Lesnar versus Randy Orton at SummerSlam of 2016, because it makes more sense that way, because Cody Rhodes is the underdog, but at the same time, you don't expect him to have a long match. You don't expect this match to be lengthy, so why don't you pull people by surprise, pull the curtain over their eyes? Why don't you have Brock kind of dominate Cody a little bit, but then you have Cody survive for a really long time, and then Cody comes back. You know what I mean? That's my opinion on the way this match should play out, because it just makes better sense, to me anyways. Now, personally, especially after what we heard from Cody last night, personally I feel as though Cody has to win this match. He just has to. On top of that, I don't feel like this is going to be the end, because a lot of people are saying, oh, well, Brock's going to retire after this, or this and that. I don't think that's the case, because we know Brock Lesnar. With Brock, everything has to make sense. And so I feel as though Brock is going to deliver almost some sort of F5 after the match. I feel as though Brock Lesnar is going to continue this even after the match, whether win or lose. I feel as though this match doesn't end until Cody Rhodes' body is laying like a dead carcass in the middle of the ring. And so that's just what makes the most sense to me, in my opinion. Whether Cody wins or whether Cody loses, he loses in a way, because Brock Lesnar is the beast, and he's going to victimize you, just like he's done to everyone else in the past. So that's my thoughts on it, is that I feel as though Cody has to win this, but I don't feel as though he's going to be walking out the building feeling like a winner, if that makes sense. Now, we also have Bad Bunny taking on Damian Priest in a San Juan street fight. Now, this one, very, very hard for me to come up with, like, any predictions or anything like that, or even any thoughts on who I think could win. Personally, I think it should go to Damian Priest, and this is not to take away from Bad Bunny. This is not to say he shouldn't win or he couldn't win. It's simply to say that Damian Priest is on a whole nother level than he once was. Damian Priest, since he's joined the main roster, has officially, just skyrocketed into an amazing singles star. For a while there, when the Judgment Day started, I feel as though he was more like a tag team wrestler. He was more like a backup with Finn and Dominic. And then he started really proving himself in those tag team matches, and he was really this strong, dominant enforcer. And then, he would get singles matches with guys like Edge and guys like Rey Mysterio, and he would really prove himself in those matches because he was so dominant and so powerful and so unstoppably entertaining. And that's what I feel as though he's bringing into this match, because at this point he's on a whole nother level. He's on another planet than what he once was last year. And so this is something completely new to him. This is something that I don't know if anyone can prepare for, even Bad Bunny, in the sense that this is a street fight. And so yes, Bad Bunny can use weapons, but Damian Priest can do the exact same thing. And we've seen Damian Priest, how lethal he is with and without weapons. So this is going to be interesting to me. So personally speaking, I think this match has to go to Damian Priest. However, I don't see this match ending without a bunch of total chaos. I don't see this match ending without Bad Bunny being, flying around and Judgment Day getting involved and LWO getting involved and just literal total chaos, in my opinion. I feel as though this is going to be one hell of a street fight. This is going to be an all-out war between the Judgment Day and the LWO, just like it has been, just like it needs to be. This is the final stretch for the Judgment Day in the LWO. This is the end of it all. That, in my opinion, that's how, whether it's Damian Priest or whether it's Bad Bunny, there's only one way this ends, and that's all-out war between the LWO and the Judgment Day. This is going to be a street fight, but it's more so just going to be one big fight, if you will. Now, we also have the SmackDown Women's title on the line. Rhea Ripley taking on Zelina Vega. Now, obviously, this is Rhea Ripley's first title defense. On top of that, Zelina Vega, again, I mentioned this before, this is one thing WWE didn't necessarily cover their bases on. They covered their bases with Bianca Belair, in the sense that Bianca Belair got drafted to SmackDown, and so did Io Sky, so that way people could kind of go, oh, well, if Io wins, she keeps the title on SmackDown. The issue is now, though, they didn't cover their bases with Zelina Vega, because the entirety of the LWO had gotten drafted to SmackDown, including Zelina. And since Rhea's on Raw, if Zelina wins, she's taking the title to SmackDown, from what my understanding is. Which means her, and whether it's Bianca or whether it's Io Sky, would both be champions on the same brand. Doesn't necessarily make sense. And so, personally speaking, they already kind of screwed us. Now, I think everyone knew that, oh, hey, Rhea Ripley's going to win, right? It's her first title defense, and no offense, Zelina Vega's growing as a wrestler, and she's getting a little bigger and bigger than she once was, but she's not ready to beat someone like Rhea Ripley for the SmackDown Women's title. She's just not on that level yet. And so I think everyone already knew what was going to happen, but it kind of takes away from the idea of some people in the back of their minds wanting that hope of, like, what if she did win? If you know what I mean? But yeah, obviously, Rhea Ripley's got to win this one. I mean, she's the dominant powerhouse. She's the Eradicator. It just makes the most sense. Now we have Matt Riddle, Kevin Owens, and Sami Zayn taking on the Usos and Solo Sikoa. Now, something I noticed is Solo Sikoa and Paul Heyman are really drifting away from the Usos. The Bloodline is drifting away from the Usos. They are pulling themselves away from the Usos. And I feel as though that's really going to play into tonight. I personally feel as though Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, and Matt Riddle are going to win this match. And I feel as though the blame is going to be put on the Usos. I feel as though Roman Reigns is going to put the blame on the Usos. Solo Sikoa is going to put the blame on the Usos. Paul Heyman, the wise man, is going to put the blame on the Usos. I think that just makes the most sense. Because obviously Sami and Kevin, they now have not one, but 2 victories over the Usos. Matt Riddle, no victories over Solo Sikoa, but Matt Riddle gets angrier and angrier as this transpires. He admitted it last night in a segment. He's fired up. He wants his vengeance. He wants payback. He's sick of the Bloodline. He has not been able to enact any sort of vengeance on the Bloodline. He really hasn't. He's not gotten a single win over any Bloodline member ever. This is his big moment, his one big chance to finally say, I'm coming for you. I'm going to take you down once and for all. That's his big moment. Because could you imagine if Kevin, Sami, and Riddle get this win, and the Usos are completely separated from the Bloodline, if Roman completely kicks them out, they finally won. They finally broke up the Bloodline in some way, shape, or form. And that's everything to Matt Riddle. That's everything to Kevin Owens. That's everything to Sami Zayn. That's what they've been fighting for a very, very long time. Kevin and Sami, maybe not as long, but for Matt Riddle, he's been fighting for that since the very beginning of last year. Now, I am also going to touch on this match a little bit in the sense that a lot of people are saying we are going to get the return of Randy Orton soon. Personally, I feel as though if it's going to happen, a lot of people are saying maybe SummerSlam. I feel as though if it's going to happen, make it happen tonight. Randy Orton back in the WWE, because this is Matt Riddle's moment, right? So could you imagine if he finally won? He finally enacted his vengeance, and then his best friend, his brother, Randy Orton, comes out and hugs him. And that's what this universe has been wanting. That's what the WWE universe is wanting. And maybe that's why it took the WWE so long to say, Riddle, you're finally going to get one over the Bloodline. Because they're waiting. They're waiting for when Randy's ready so that Randy can show up and say to Riddle, I'm proud of you. Thank you for sticking up for me and for finally getting your vengeance on the bloodline for me. You know what I mean? It makes sense. If they're going to do it tonight. It would make sense if Riddle, Sammy, and Kevin win. Now, in terms of that, though, as well, I don't know if Randy would turn on Riddle. I know I've heard in the past that Randy and Riddle neither of them want that to happen. But, we can't predict the future, and so you never know. Maybe Randy delivers an RKO to Riddle, maybe he doesn't. If Randy comes back, I don't necessarily know what we're going to see. But I do feel as though this match is going to really be bigger than I think anyone's expecting. I just have a feeling that this match is going to unfold a lot of future events for months down the line. Now we also have the Raw Women's Championship on the line when Bianca Belair defends against Io Sky. Now personally, I am not the biggest Bianca Belair fan. Personally, I feel as though she needs to lose. She needs to give up the title. However, Io Sky, I don't think, is ready. And I say this because if it was one thing when they did Bianca Belair versus Io Sky when she first debuted at Monday Night Raw, and it was via disqualification and no one won, and everyone thought, oh, well, Io Sky might have a chance against Bianca. But if anyone else remembers, they did run that back. They did have a rematch, and Bianca won. And so there really isn't any point in this match, because Bianca already kind of has it like, oh, I'm going to win this. And on top of that, Damage Control can't really do anything because Bianca has friends of her own. She has Liv Morgan. She has Raquel Rodriguez. So at the end of the day, in my opinion, WWE already screwed themselves because this match, everyone kind of already knows it's going to be Bianca. Or at least it makes more sense for it to be Bianca at this point. However, I would love to see Io Sky screw everyone. I would love to see Damage Control screw everyone and Io just somehow get the win and become Raw Women's Champion. Because Damage Control's been needing that. Io Sky's been needing that. And could you imagine what that could do for even like Dakota Kai? Because even Dakota Kai could kind of get involved more. And, it could really be more so Dakota and Io as a unit, as a tag team. And Bayley's just kind of in the background. But I'm not sure how they want to play that. Now we also have for the United States title Austin Theory versus Bobby Lashley versus Bronson Reed in a triple threat. Now, this is Austin Theory's first title defense since being drafted to the SmackDown brand. On top of that, he's fighting two really heavy hitters. Now, when he won the United States title, he won the title when he fought against Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins and who else was it? Seth Rollins and Bobby Lashley at Survivor Series War Games of 2022. And it was a complete freak accident, right? Bobby Lashley spears Seth, Theory gets the cover. It's just the way it worked. I could very well see this tonight, especially considering Bronson Reed and Bobby Lashley have a much bigger rivalry, I feel like, than that of what Austin Theory is involved in. And so I feel like these two are going to end up kind of going to war with one another after this. However, I also feel like as though Austin Theory isn't done as United States Champion. Austin Theory has so much more left to prove as United States Champion. And if he could get a win over two big guns like this, he's really kind of, cemented himself. More than he already has. On top of that, though, Bobby Lashley, someone who hasn't really gotten too big of a push here lately, We could very well see him surprise everyone. We could very well see him become U.S. champ again and kind of prove himself again and stand up and prove that he is a great United States champion and he's a very talented wrestler. Or we could see Bronson Reed win, get his first piece of main roster gold. And I personally would like this option considering I think it could make sense. And I think he could really run with it considering he is this dominant enforcer. And as far as I know, the dude hasn't necessarily really lost any singles matches yet. And so, if he were to win this triple threat, he could go on down the line and continue this like undefeated United States champion type streak, and he could become a lot like that of what they're doing with Gunther with the Intercontinental Championship. But again, it just depends how they want to do things. Personally, what I feel as though is going to happen is Bronson Reed and Bobby Lashley are going to continue this rivalry after Backlash, and Austin Theory is going to take the U.S. title and kind of continue down the SmackDown roster for a little bit longer before finally losing his belt. Now, here's another match we have. I'm not super excited for this one. Seth Rollins versus Omos. Again, this is a match that makes absolutely no sense, absolutely no build-up. And it's just one of those matches where, like, listen, Omos is a really talented wrestler, but he has no pay-per-view wins. He fought Braun Strowman, lost. Fought Brock Lesnar, lost. I'm not saying that it makes sense for Seth Rollins to beat such a big guy. For Seth Rollins to beat such a big guy like Omos. But what I am saying is that Seth Rollins is white hot. And if he beats Omos, he's only going to get hotter. It's only going to transcend him into this match, into this idea of going to Night of Champions for the World Heavyweight title. And again, after his little segment with Paul Heyman last Monday, and the idea of, like, him and the Bloodline feuding, and him and Roman, and him and Solo, after that whole debacle, it just makes more sense for Seth to get this win and go into Night of Champions really red hot right now, like he currently is. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for tonight's episode. As always, thank you for tuning in. Again, I do just want to quickly say I do apologize for making this more so all about WWE and all about Backlash, but because it's a pay-per-view night, I figured why not make it all about the pay-per-view. Makes more sense that way. And again, I know it's a little more earlier of an episode than it usually is, but again, with it being a pay-per-view, I figured I'd get this out as early as possible, before the pay-per-view actually airs. So, as always, thank you for tuning in, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.